Demonic possessions. It is the stuff of Hollywood films and nightmares inspired by the belief in something dark and ominous that invades the body and damns the soul to eternity. It makes for a great story for film, but are exorcisms real?
Exorcism is certainly a part of our tradition in that Jesus freed people from evil. It's in the ritual of the church, in our prayers, that people be preserved from evil. But a formal exorcism of someone who's been proved to be possessed is very rare. Especially since we've learned more and more about mental illness. And the church says specifically that any kind of mental illness is to be taken care of by medical science. It's not the area of, it's not possession.
If it is not a demonic possession, then can one conclude that these individuals are suffering from a mental illness such as depression or other psychotic illnesses?
Individuals will go through a period of increased problems with sleep. There'll be changes in their overall personality or their interaction with others. They tend to either withdraw or start to behave in ways that are different from usual. Friends or family will notice that they seem to be acting in ways that might be called odd or peculiar or reclusive or out of ordinary from their usual self. And this generally progresses then. It can be, in some cases, it can be a very slow, insidious thing that tends to last for many months. Sometimes it can go more rapidly in a matter of days. And then at some point the individual begins to become more obviously disordered in their perceptions of things. They misinterpret things. Their thinking processes break down so that their ability to talk sequentially or in a logical way deteriorates, and their thinking becomes fragmented, or they jump from subject to subject or talking nonsensical phrases with words. They can become quite unpredictable in their behavior. Oftentimes there's suspiciousness or paranoia that creeps in. They can develop ideas that are quite unusual or not the usual type of ideas that most people experience or share.
Are these shared ideas or symptoms of a religious belief in demonic possession, or is it an actual mental condition suffered by individuals?
Someone is completely possessed by evil and you can prove that it's not mental illness, then you're in the realm of faith, then you're in the realm of mystery, then prayer is what you do. But it's very rare.
Oftentimes, a lot of religiosity occurs in conjunction with psychotic episodes like the ones that I described. And in almost all cases, you can, through working with the individual, you can usually help treat the underlying illness, and then these ideas that some people might interpret as demonic possession tend to go away.
What types of mental conditions or illnesses mimic symptoms attributed to a demonically possessed individual?
The part of your brain that can trigger some automatic behaviors discharges in a seizure-like way. You could have, for example, if you had a discharge of electrical activity in this part of the brain, a person can have a grand mal seizure where they may lose consciousness and have these tonic-clonic jerking conditions, and they may lose control of their bowels temporarily and then be unconscious for a period of anywhere from seconds to a few minutes, and then gradually regain consciousness and go through a period of post-ictal meaning post-seizure confusion, and then gradually regain their normal consciousness. From this portion of the brain, the temporal lobe, it can cause, rather than these tonic-clonic movements, it can cause automatic behaviors. Usually they're stereotypic and repetitive, so that a person might, stand up, turn to the left, kind of do something that looks peculiar or different, but it has some purposeful component. It's exceedingly rare that a person with temporal lobe epilepsy will do different purposeful actions or would have different, spiritual kinds of experiences. They may have, as part of their experience, a repetitive feeling of, say, demonic possession, or react out of like they are being tormented by a demon. But usually it's the same with each temporal lobe epilepsy episode, and when you treat the epilepsy, if it responds well, it will go away and not be a recurrent problem.
But who can forget the images of a young girl who was mysteriously overtaken by a demonic figure in Peter Blady's The Exorcist? Could it have been a medical condition that was overlooked and easily treated with medication versus a religious belief?
What they were doing, say, in a film like The Exorcist, was to have evil outside the human psyche. In other words, evil is coming as a source from some other place other than the person himself or herself. So that in a real sense, she is not to blame. He's been taken over by the devil. And again, it's outside of us instead of inside of us. So we're not responsible. And that's one of the things that in filming evil, you want to avoid letting human beings off the hook by this other force.
However, Hollywood tends to encourage ideas about demonic possession versus a mental condition, for it makes for a better story.
We love horror films. We love the ghost stories. We love that stuff. Everybody loves it. It's a way of dealing with our fears, I think, and Hollywood sometimes does a good job of doing that, doing what our folk tales have always done. We take our fears that are in the back of our heads and we put them out there, and we're free of them.
If they want to see films about the miracles of Jesus, well, Hollywood will give them to them. Well, it's quite a battle, and that's what they like to film, is the battle. All the horror. Nobody's going to go watch that film if it's just a film about goodness. As Kirk Douglas said, there's no story in goodness. So you need the bad guys. And the ultimate bad guy, of course, is Satan. Theologian Margaret Miles did a book called Seeing and Believing. And that's one of the things she's presenting, that your believing is how you see. Scientists want to see first and believe second. Most people deeply committed to religion want to believe first and see then things that support what they believe. Though that's one of the differences between science and religion. One is believing first and the other is seeing first.
Hollywood places evil outside of our immediate reality, encouraging the viewer to embrace one's fears rather than to uncover any underlying mental conditions, because of the audience's ability to identify with what they understand versus what they need. The truth of the matter is not whether you believe what you see or see what you believe. Exorcisms have become part of our filmic culture that is easily manipulated by Hollywood for a good story. Ultimately, this leaves the subject of whether exorcisms are fact or fiction open for debate, and it is up to you, the viewer, to decide.